Hello guys and welcome to this video. So today we will see how to write the UI test, okay? In the two previous videos we saw how to build this small app and also how to write the unit test, okay? And by the way, if you haven't watched the two previous videos, I will strongly recommend you to go and watch those videos first, okay? So what we did, if we enter a wrong email here, for example, John at, and we click on next, we have this error message, okay? And if we enter a valid email, like john@me.com, and we click on next, this the error message is gone, okay? And we added this test because we are good developers and we want to make sure that our app is running perfectly, okay? So today what we will do, we'll simply add the UI test on top of this unit test because we also want to make sure that our UI is rendered properly, okay? So let's go ahead and add the UI test. UI test, what we want to do, we want to add the new target, okay? Because last time we saw that we can add a new target for our unit test. So we want to do the same and add a new target for our UI test, okay? So let's come here, file, new, target. And here we want to add a test. And now we want to add the UI test, okay? So UI test, let's click on next. Email validation UI test, perfect. We want to make sure that is for this project, email validation. And the target that we want to test is email validation. So everything is looking good. You can click on finish. And here, as you can see, we have a new target, okay? Email validation UI test, okay? And Xcode is giving us those two sample tests that we want to use, okay? So now the next step, we want to add a UI test, okay? And in this case, what we are testing is this sign-in view, okay? We want to test this sign-in view and we want to make sure that everything is rendered properly, okay? So let's come here and just copy this sign-in view. And what we want to do, we want to come here, right click, new file, and we want a UI test, okay? So select UI test, next. And for the name, you can simply put sign in, maybe sign in UI test, okay? Sign in UI test. Let's click on next. And we want to make sure that this target, okay? The UI test target, okay? And let's create. Okay, perfect. So again, Xcode give us a sample code. We don't want this, we can remove this. And we also don't want this test sample. For teardown with error, we can keep this. And here, setup with error, we can remove everything, okay? So that we do everything from scratch, okay? Okay, perfect. So we are good to go. We are good to write our first test, okay? What do we need for our first UI test? So we need is our app, okay? Because remember, it's a UI test. So in order for the UI test to run, we need a UI. We need the app itself to run, okay? So we need to have this app, okay? So we need to launch our app in our test, okay? So let's create here a reference of our app, okay? So let's do app equal to SCUI application, okay? And in our setup with error, what we want to do, we want to launch our app, okay? So here what we'll do, we will simply do app that launch, okay? So here what we are doing, we simply take this app and we are launching the app, okay? And we have an error, let's see. Expected member name of constructor call after type name. Instance member launch cannot be used on type XCUI application. Okay, so here we simply forgot this to add this, and I think the error will go away. Okay, so perfect. So here the setup with error, by the way, this function setup with error will be called just before a test, right? So before a test, before the actual test, what we want to do, we want to launch our app, okay? So we want this app to be launched, okay? So now that the app is launched, what we want to do, we want to add a test, okay? And the first thing we will do, we will add the test for an error message, okay? As we did here for our unit test. So we added the test for invalid email, okay? So we want to do the same thing. Let's copy this, and we want to make sure that whenever we have an invalid email, we want to make sure that our error message is displayed, okay? So let's add this function. So test invalid email, okay? And we want to follow the same structure, okay? Because in our unit test, we said that we want this arrange, add and then assert. Okay, so we want to do the same thing for UI test. So let's put it arrange, add, and assert. Okay, so in our arrange, what do we need? What do we need for this test to run? Okay, in order for us to run this test, what we need this field. We need, because we will enter an email on this test field. Okay, so we need a reference of this test field. Okay, and we also need a reference of error message, and we also need a reference of button. Okay, and how do we get this reference? In order to get this reference, what we will do, we'll simply launch this record button. Okay, and as you can see here, this record button is disabled. So in order to enable this, I think this is a bug on Xcode. So in order to enable this, we will simply close Xcode completely. So let's stop everything and close, and we will launch it again. Okay, now that Xcode is launched again, as you can see, now we can record this. Okay, so let's click on this record button, and it will launch our simulator. So as you can see, our simulator is launched. So as we said, we want a reference of this test field. Okay, so let's click on it. We have a message here, timestamp even matching error, failed to find matching element. Okay, let's click on OK. Let's launch this again. Let's click again. Okay. Okay guys, so the error was due to the fact that I didn't add this cross, so that's why we were getting that error. Okay, I'm sorry about it. So now let's go back to our UI test, and what we want to do, we want to record everything. Okay, so we want to press on this record button. Let's press on it, and as you can see, we launch our app. Okay, so what we need a reference of this test field. Okay, so let's click on it, and as you can see, it gives us the reference. Okay, and we also want it to insert an email address. Okay, we want to enter a wrong email address. So let's tap John add, let's tap on next, and now we have a reference of this next button. Okay, and we also want a reference of this invalid email format. Okay, so let's click on it, and as you can see, we also have a reference of this invalid email format. Okay, so that's it for the record. We can stop recording, and now we can start writing a test. Okay, so we can remove this app because we already have a reference of this app. So let's remove this, and now we want a reference of this email address. Okay, this email test field. Okay, so let's call it email test field. Email test field. So that's now the second thing we want to add a reference for this button too. Okay, so we want a reference of this button. So let's do that. Let's create here next button, and we want to put it here. Okay, so we have the next button, and we also want a reference of this invalid email format. Okay, so let's copy this, and let us create here error message, and we paste this. Okay, so now we have a reference of everything we have on our UI. So the next thing we want to do this add. Okay, add, what we want to do, we want to enter a test on this email test field. Okay, so we want to take this email test field, and we want to type, what do we want to type? We want to enter a wrong email address. Okay, so here we can enter this John add. Okay, so this is a wrong email address, and this is what we want to insert in this test field. Okay, let me add some space here. So we want to enter this John. The next thing we want to do, we want to press this button. Okay, so we want to tap on this next button, exactly what we did when we were testing ourselves. Okay, if I launch the app again, so here what we are doing, here we have this test field. Okay, so here what we are doing, we are entering this John. Okay, so John add. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is to press on this next button. Okay, I think it makes sense, and this next button is this one. Okay, so let's copy this next button, and let's tap on it. So we want to call tab, and now if we tap on this, we want to make sure that we have this invalid email format message. Okay, so how are we going to do this? So here we are done with this app. Now we want to make sure that this error message is showing up. Okay, so this is our assert. So let's cut this and put it here. So for our assert, what we want to assert, that the message exists. Okay, so let's do assert true. So we want to assert that this error message exists simply. Okay, so we want to assert that this message exists. Okay, so I think we are done with our test, and we can remove this everything, and let's run a test before. Okay, we can see that our test is failing. Okay, what's the error message? Fail to uh, synthesize element, not any descendant has key focus. Okay, so I think I know what's going on here. Okay, because we don't have the focus on this test field. Okay, it's like when we launch our app. Let me launch the app again. So when we launch our app, in order to type something on this test field, we need to put the focus on this test field. Okay, and how do we put the focus? We can simply put the focus by clicking or tapping on this test field. Okay, so here, before typing this test, what we want to do, we want to tap on this test field itself. So test field that tab. Okay, so let's run test again and see if the test will pass. Cool. Okay, so perfect. So our test is passing. As you can see, this is green now. So I will launch the test again and explain everything. Okay, so here on the test, it will launch our app first. Okay, app that launch. Okay, so we launch our app, and the next thing we'll do, we will come here and tap on this email test field. Okay, so we tap it, we tap here, and then we enter this John add, and then we tap on this next button, and then we assert that this error message exists. Okay, so be proud of yourself, guys. We just did a good UI test. So the next thing we want to do, we want to improve our test. Okay, how can we improve our test? Here, as you can notice, for this test field, this name is simply what we added here. Okay, enter your email. Okay, so this test field is referenced by this test. But what happens if we change here, for example, and instead of enter your email, we put please enter your email. Let's run a test again and see what will happen. As you can see, our test is failing. Okay, and why is it failing? Because no match was found for this enter your email. Okay, because we changed it. Instead of enter your email, we put please enter your email. Okay, and we don't want this. Okay, we don't want a test to be based on what we put here. Okay, because this might change even depending on the language. Okay, so what we want to do, we want to add on this test field, we want to add something called accessibility identifier. Okay, so accessibility identifier will be like a unique UI ID. Okay, so that ID is what we will use now to reference this test field. Okay, and for the unique identifier, what we can put here, we can simply put email test field. Okay, perfect. So now what we will do, instead of this enter your email, we will replace this to email test field. Let's run a test again and see what will happen. Okay, perfect. Now you can see that our test is passing again. Okay, so let's do the same thing for next button and error message. Okay, so for next button, what we will do is we come here, next button, we'll copy this, and on this button, on this test, so here we can put next button. Okay, and we will come back to our test, and instead of next, we put next button, and let's do the same for error message. Okay, perfect. Let's run a test once again just to make sure that everything is still working. And perfect, our test is still working. Okay, so now let's add the last test. In case we have a valid email, what will happen? Okay, so let's we copy and paste this. Instead of invalid, what we want now is a valid email. Okay, So here for email, instead of an invalid email, we put a valid email address, john@me.com. Okay, and now we want to assert that this error message does not exist. Okay, so here instead of assert true, we put assert false. Okay, perfect. So now let's run our test again. You can even run everything. Okay, as you can see, our tests are working perfectly. Okay, so thank you guys for watching this video. If you have enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Okay, and see you in the next video. Take care.